Okay, Lesson 5, Part 2, Special Parallelograms. In this Part 2, we are going to be formalizing our definitions of our special parallelograms, and then I'm going to show you a couple things called corollaries. They're basically like whenever we showed that quadrilaterals were parallelograms. We can use corollaries to show that a parallelogram is a special kind of parallelogram. So start with the rhombus. Over on the left, it's the definition of a rhombus. It has 4 congruent sides. We can also say it's equilateral. And the property that we talked about in Part 1 is that the diagonals of a rhombus are perpendicular. Next we have the rectangle. For it to be a rectangle, it needs to have 4 right angles, which also makes it equiangular. And the special property that a rectangle has is that its diagonals are congruent. And then we have our final special parallelogram. It's the square. It has 4 congruent sides and 4 right angles, which means it's both equilateral and equiangular. And again, a square is kind of like you took a rhombus and a rectangle and you put their properties into one. And here is a flowchart of quadrilaterals and parallelograms of what we know. You start up here at the top, we have quadrilaterals. Drop down, here are parallelograms. And then we branch off from the parallelograms. We have our rhombus, and then we have our rectangle. And then, like I said, we mush those two together and we get a square. Now, the way this flowchart works is that you can go up and call anything up that same thing. So if we start down here at the square, I can say a square is a rectangle and a rhombus and a parallelogram and a quadrilateral. What I can't do is start here at the rectangle and say that a rectangle is a square, because a rectangle is not a square. A square is a rectangle. It's a little bit confusing, I know. Just remember, you can only go up if you're naming. You can't go sideways or down. Now on to the corollaries. We have 3 of them. Start with the rhombus corollary. It says if we have a quadrilateral just hanging out and we see it has 4 congruent sides, then we can say that that quadrilateral is a rhombus. So if it has 4 congruent sides, we can state it's a rhombus. With the rectangle, if we just see a quadrilateral and we see that it has 4 right angles, we can then say it's a rectangle. So if it has 4 right angles, you can state that's a rectangle. Finally, the square. If you see a quadrilateral, it has 4 congruent sides and 4 right angles. If it has both, then we can say that it is a square. So square, 4 congruent sides, 4 right angles. Rectangle, 4 right angles. Rhombus, 4 congruent sides.